Hey, how's it going, YouTube? Hope you're having a wonderful day. Pretty interesting topic for us to tackle as we get into what is now essentially the off season. For most that are unfamiliar, obviously a lot of teams, now that there is no longer any more qualifiers, have about a month break, about 2-3 weeks before we get into the major, and then there is a trade window that's 2 weeks long, and then we start up again after for the second split of the RLCS. And the conversation I think that should be had or should be mentioned about is which organizations, which teams should be making or considering roster changes. Now, there's a lot of things to go into about what that entails or how that looks. So I'm going to try to break down kind of the considerations and some of the ideologies about what goes into a roster change and some of the complications. And then we're actually going to take a look at some of these organizations, some of the teams, kind of the range where you're probably considering it. And some of that range may be bigger than you think. So if you guys want to make sure you stay up to date on all things Rocket League, like, subscribe, notifications. With that said, let's actually jump into the conversation. When considering a roster changes, what are some of the factors? What are some of the things that these organizations and these players are going through? I think the complicated thing is that with this, it is not as easy as it meets the eye. If you're a team that's probably towards the bottom, say you're like a we'll take the Muffin Men as an example. They know for a fact that their team is now LFT. Squishy's retired. You've got Aqua and Gimmick. Do they stay together? Do they try to find a new third? What do they do? Both have stated that they're LFT and are going to try to find something else. I think Aqua's got a pretty good opportunity based upon the involvement that he showed for the Muffin Men and the results that he put up as an individual. But the reality is, how many of these top teams are, one, going to want to change? Two, is he going to have talent that's even available for him? And three, what about the financial situation? You know, is there buyouts? Is there teams that are locked to specific things? What's the movement like? So if I'm an organization, we're going to take one that just barely missed out. We're going to take Dignitas, right? They're tied for 5th right now with M80 and Space Station and TSM. There's 4 teams all in the 5th place spot. So you have to come into the consideration of, one, do we need to make a change? Do we feel with the roster that we currently have, we are capable of making it into that next round? And many would say, you know what, we were close. We were really close, and I think we can build upon what we have. I think that I like the vibe we're going with. Let's stick and try to build, and we're going to use this off-season time, these 6, 7, 8 weeks, to not put stress on, do I still have a job? We're going to focus in on making sure we improve and we lock the heck in, okay? The second option is you say, you know what, internal issues, maybe we are not getting along, maybe we're not comfortable with the playstyle, maybe I have an opportunity to go elsewhere where I think I'm going to find better opportunities. All those factors are a thing. So you decide, you know what, we are making a change. That change is also predicated by, are there players available? Can our organization make it happen financially? Say I'm on Dignitas and I want to snipe AJ from M80, just as a hypothetical. Can we buy out his contract? What are the stipulations to his contract? Is he able to get out? Do they have right of refusal? What are all those factors that are capable? You're also probably going to want to not just stick to one player. Unless the players themselves on the team and the coach have an idea in mind of what they're trying to build or what kind of play style they're trying to go with, most teams are like, let's just open the floodgates and let any and every player try out. You then have on the opposite side of that, you know, a team like the Snowmen. The Snowmen are an unsigned team that have proven that there's a lot of good talent on the roster. Frosty, you got Scribbles. Those players are really solid. So now Scribbles and those guys have to decide, do we let our team break apart and go get signed and we wish the best for our player? Or do we try to solidify and make us continue to improve? Like, there's a lot of factors that go into these teams. That's not just as simple as like, hey, do it. Now, I can tell you for a lot of the unsigned teams, you know, even like a Magnifico roster. Magnifico was a series or 2 out from making the major. You know, they're in 5th place right now, barely ahead of Oxygen. And if someone was to go to Magnifico and say, hey, this Stizzy kid's really good. We really like Stizzy and we want to upgrade our roster. Maybe Oxygen, who's 1 point behind them, goes, we have a full-blown organization that is willing to support and allow you to boot camp, and we're going to pay you to actually do your job. And Stizzy goes, I'm sorry, guys, but this is what I play for. I am playing to earn a living, and I'm trying to do this professionally, and this opportunity is there. No hard feelings, but it's business. I have to do this to give myself the most chance of being successful long-term and breaking into that top-tier type paid mentality. That stuff can also happen all the time. And whether the team decides to stick together and try to build and grow for what they have, or they pass off, is is a very real possibility. And you're going to see that on both sides, both on the high end as well as the low end. You may even see teams that go to the major, and the day the major ends on the 31st, the next day is going to be the trade window. You have 2 weeks as the immediate next day, that Monday, to figure out what your next roster is going to look like. And there is going to be some teams that maybe go to the major that don't have a good result. You know, maybe they go 0-3, 1-3 in Swiss, and they're like, this is not it. We're trying to compete for a world championship. We don't feel confident in this roster. We just got exposed and we think we can make an upgrade. And we've seen that before. Gen G was a prime example. When they went into the spring major, they knew they were getting rid of Nolly. Going into Worlds, they knew, and Nolly knew, that he was going to be out. So these decisions happen very quickly, very aggressively, because you don't have time to waste. It's pretty scary. Some of the teams that I think obviously have to be in consideration are teams that are either A, not consistently making top 8, top 4, or at least in the conversation for it. So you can basically take all of these and say yes. Any teams that are not going to the major are 100% up for conversation of whether they should make a change or not. That decision is based upon 1, availability, like I mentioned. 2, what are the legal repercussions? Are there going to be buyouts financially? Can they make it happen? And is it going to be a lateral move? Is it going to be an improvement? And a lot of that is on the determination of scrims. You know, luckily for them going into the major, a lot of teams are going to be scrimming and doing everything they can. For everybody over in Europe, they have an even bigger advantage because all of this international competition is going to come over. If I am teams like 100%, SA, Top Cougars, Bella Goal, Team 3, everything like that, I have a really good chance to scrim some of the best teams in the world from North America. Whether they agree with that being a good idea or not is entirely up to the ideology of the team, but it is a chance to where these teams are not always going to be available, and you have the ability to scrim other teams that are also super competitive. So there is a chance for a lot of these guys to get additional work. That is the benefit of hosting the major in your area, in your region per se. So I think that stuff's also super important. But TSM and Space Station, all these are going to, I think, in my opinion, probably have the most difficulties. TSM in particular, I don't think it necessarily needs to make a change, but I do think them bringing in support staff. They don't have a coach. That coach could be the difference if they find the right one between locking down some of the matches that they should have closed out versus, hey, we kind of tilt and don't play up to the potential that we have. We lose that confidence. Having a third party that comes in and kind of yaps in your ear and is like, hey guys, like, you are still good. You are still fine. We have plenty of matches. That kind of mature environment. Not saying that the guys aren't, but it's good to have someone that's not on the field provide that perspective. Pirates on a boat, I think, is another difficult situation. Those 3 have really proven that they are that good, that they are talented. People keep looking over Andy. Maybe because of their performance being 1 point outside of the top 5 is enough for someone to be like, let's give this Andy kid a tryout again. He seems pretty good. Those types of things are going to happen. I can almost guarantee it. So what's crazy is you're already seeing it happen a little bit in EU. Shifted put out a rumor about the Resolve team. Resolve doesn't find themselves in the top 16, so it makes sense. You know, they struggled to make top 16s. You know, they upgraded their roster without a doubt, but it's still as competitive ever. And they have to make changes early and often. And the benefit of those rumors coming out early is it does give them an advantage for people to turn heads and be like, this is an opportunity. This is an option we can consider. I think it's a little bit more difficult in the top regions just because we usually do see these teams and these teams, specifically in South America, change very aggressively. But what's even crazier to me for South America is that you had what we thought was a massive refinement period. You saw a lot of really big name teams kind of consolidating and making these super teams. And the 2 imports came in back from North America and are 1-2. And Furia looks really damn good. So I think it's complicated. There is no easy way to go about it. But if you are a team and you are in consideration for the public, there's a lot of factors that go into it, both contract, financial side, as well as does it even make sense to do it? But if all these teams are striving to make the major, it has to be a thought in the back of your head, and what the perfect solution is going to change from team to team. So I think it's difficult. I think maybe you even see people mentioning it. Vitality, you know, I talked to Alpha 54 a little bit, and he said, hey, we tried a new play style, and while it was risky, it paid off. And you're starting to see Vitality look like Vitality the old a little bit more. Do I think their run was the biggest litmus test? No, I think their strength of schedule is as easy as it can get compared to seeing both Gentlemates, BDS, and K-Corp on the complete opposite side of the bracket. Do they make the grand final if one of those teams is in the semifinal? Who's to say? But I do think Vitality looked the best they've looked this season this past qualifier. So again, a lot of people calling the head of Radosin because he's not as mechanical as the other guys. But I also think that Radosin is a pivotal piece of why they were successful this weekend. His off-ball play, his aggression, his in-your-face mentality is what sets them up to be successful and allows to provide space for Zen and Alpha to cook. So again, it's not as simple as it looks, and you also still have to find someone that even fulfills the spot or the role that you're looking for them to do. So there is no easy way to do this. It is very stressful. I do not envy anybody in these positions. It sucks. Talking to a lot of these teams during the offseason and trying to find spots, it is very stressful. So with that in mind, roster changes are going to get started. We're going to try to do the best to cover and provide some international scrims as well when the time comes for these guys to start boot camping. But as always, if you guys enjoy the content, make sure you guys hit like, subscribe, turn on notifications. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.